Hey everybody, I think we live. We supposed to be live. Y'all do me a favor, like this video, share this video, subscribe if you have not. Hit that notification bell, you guys. And know that when you subscribe, you got to go to the notification bell. You got to click all, otherwise they be hating and they show you what they want and then they don't notify you and they don't want to. So if you're not receiving all your notifications, that's what you got to do. You got to go to the page, you got to hit the notifications and you got to hit all right? So y'all do that for me before we get into this conversation. Um, some people might be offended tonight, but I feel like I offend people all the time, so that shouldn't be no problem. Y'all should be used to this shit already. Okay. But y'all like this video, subscribe. Let me get my folks on MX Network over here on. And just so everybody knows, if you're new here, welcome. Stay a little while. Be offended or don't be offended. I don't be trying to offend people really. But I feel like truth offends people. Sometimes if you tell the truth people do not want to hear, then it's a problem and they be offended. So I just be telling the truth and the truth be offending people. Okay. But if you want to stick around so you can hear the truth, then stay here by all means, y'all. We're going to have a conversation tonight on some real shit. I'm not here trying to disparage or to talk down on the name of MLK, right? We know that, it was Martin Luther King just the other day, his celebration or whatever. I'm kind of opposed to being given a leader. Martin Luther King was given to us because he was a safe ass leader. And it's okay for us to say this now in 2025, right? That we didn't choose him. They told us this was our leader because the people that we look up to and we feel like they really was leading us in a better direction, like, a Khalid Muhammad, or a Malcolm X, they would never give them a day. They would never acknowledge them, right? They would never talk about any of those things when it comes to them. They want to give us safe leaders, okay? So we're going to have this conversation tonight, you guys, about Martin Luther King. I think it's a good time to have it, just the other day, it was, like I said, Martin Luther King Day. And I guess we should question if we should even be celebrating this, okay? Now, again, some of y'all might get offended. I don't know what to tell you. You know what I'm saying? Do whatever you're going to do with it. If you guys want to watch this and you don't want any commercial interruptions in the show, you can go over to MX Network. You guys, the link to that is in the description of this video. You can join us with your free subscription while this live is live. And then tomorrow you will not be able to watch this live no more unless you got a paid subscription. So shout out to everybody over on MX Network. We have a chat over there as well. So just like YouTube, you could come over there. You can give in the chat. You can say hey in the chat and you can do whatever you need to do, just like you do over here on YouTube. Okay. So know that that is an option. If you have a problem with, watching the commercials or whatever that YouTube is going to put on this. So I know it's a lot going on, you guys. And if y'all are like Nietzsche, why are we talking about this? Because I think this affects the Black community. And regardless of all of the things that I speak about all of the time, I know there are a lot of issues that I will talk about, especially politically, that there are lots of people that will listen, gain something from it, maybe agree with it. But at the end of the day, my ultimate message is for my people, right? Which is Black people, because I feel that we are the low of the totem pole when it comes to immigrants, when it comes to anybody else in this country. We are always the ones on the lowest. And I think that we need to understand what's going on more than anybody else. So there's always something that other people can glean from this conversation. If you would like to hear more about politics or what's been going on, with Trump and everything, I've made quite a few videos. I'm actually tired of sitting in front of a camera. My head hurt. Talk about some goddamn politics. But there are plenty of videos. Y'all go check them out. They're on the page. They're short videos, 8-10 minutes, getting straight to the point, you guys. And so y'all can always go over there. I still think these are important conversations. So we're going to have this, okay? Martin Luther King, somebody said, please quit calling him doctor. I don't know if he's a doctor or not, okay? But I will tell you that Dr. Martin Luther King, what they call him, he royally fucked Black people. Can we just start there, okay? We're going to to watch something tonight. I'm going to wait till we get some more people coming in here, you guys, before we play it and kind of get into this conversation. But I want to play something for you. Have you guys ever watched the How to Sell to the Negro? Now, this was a like, I don't want to say a documentary, but it was a like a news special, right? That was aired on the news about how to sell to the Negro. It actually was aired in 1954 at the same exact time that the civil rights movement started. So the civil rights movement started around 1954, lasted until what, 1967, 68, somewhere around there. Okay. So I want to show you guys something. I want you to see something with your own eyes, because after this conversation, I want you to tell me, were we better off before the civil rights movement, or were we worse after the civil rights movement? Like, which is which, right? Because this fight was apparently supposed to make us better. It was supposed to give us some shit that we didn't have, give us some better equality, give us better things. But we're going to look at some facts tonight. We are going to look at just facts, right? And you then take those facts and you decide and do what you want to do with them. And then you tell me if MLK hurt us or if he helped us. Okay. Somebody said, "When you drop the link, y'all." Hey, drop the link if that's what y'all want me to do. So let's watch this. And I mean, if y'all want to get in and have the conversation, I will drop the link. I'm not staying here till no 4 o'clock in the morning, y'all. Okay, but I will drop the link if y'all want me to. Once we watch this towards the end of this conversation, if you will still want to, then let me know. And if somebody wants to come up, absolutely, because I feel that you guys have your opinions. And of course, there are going to be people who are going to come up and say, Michi, I agree with you. I actually prefer if I drop the link, you guys, to talk to people who disagree with what I'm saying, but not because you're just in your emotions. Like if I drop the link and you come up here, I want you to have a reasonable debate, like be able to tell me why you don't agree with what the hell I'm saying. You know what I'm saying? And tell me why, because I'm definitely going to back up everything I'm motherfucking saying tonight. All right. Shout out to you, even Steven. Michi X, I need you to bring back that video you did 6 years ago about the big mockery they do in San Antonio, as well as Tether Week. They are 100 times worse since you roasted them. The rainbow stuff they do is why Trump won. Well, you know, they do. And people all the time be making a mockery out of it because there's no respect and no regard. Everybody acts like it is. So, okay, let's first of all, let's start this conversation with our civil rights. How many of you know what your civil rights are? Because this is what he fought for, right? And I will beg to differ if you're going to tell me that he died because he fought for civil rights. That's not why he died. Shout out to you, Walter. Thank you for the donation over on MX Network. That's what, if y'all like, who is Walter? Where Walter? Walter on MX Network watching. He don't want to watch these commercials. And thank you, Walter. Walter show love every time I have a live. I appreciate that. So what are our civil rights? Because you cannot ask yourself, well, did we receive our civil rights? Are we better off after this situation if you don't even know what they are? Okay. So I want you to think about what Black people are right now. So freedom of religion. Okay. You get to practice what you want to practice in this country. You do. Don't nobody really crucify you, but I don't think anybody was like whooping your ass for being a Christian before. I think you got your ass whooped into being a Christian. That's what really happened, right? Because Christianity came from the plantation for Black people. I know some of y'all don't want to receive that either, but the truth is that Black people were told that they had to be Christians. If you don't know that, you should go look it up. But when Black people were on the plantation before they got free, and then they claimed they needed civil rights according to Martin Luther King, right? Guess what? On Sundays, the reason they call that the day of rest for us is because that is the day that Massa wouldn't, he wouldn't defile nobody. He wouldn't make you work. And then when he had it preached to you, he would actually have another Black person get up on stand on some crates or a box, right? An overseer, and he would get up there like what y'all say in church today. Y'all got overseers in y'all church? Okay. And he would get up there and he would preach this word to you. And so Jesus was your savior because listening to what was being said in that sermon that day and giving in to all of these Sunday festivals and pretending to praise this savior that Master gave you, kept you from getting fucked up that day. So I guess he was your saving grace, right? I want you to just take this, put it in your back pocket in this conversation, right? They would kill you at the very worst. They would beat you or maim you at the very least if they caught a Black person trying to read or learning how to read. Yes. So if that was the case, why would they then allow you to learn and then let somebody that's Black learn and then give you information in what's called the most powerful book there is? Now, this book is supposed to be powerful. It is supposed to hold all kind of things for you to be powerful, for you to shake the lion's den, for you to shake the jailhouse and get out. It's supposed to do all of those things, along with the scriptures in there that say, slave, be good to thy slave master, right? So all of these things are in that book. And if that is the book that sets you free, and if it is so much power in that book, then why, of all books, would they let you read that one? I want you to remember, reading was not allowed. It was like outlawed for Black people at that time. So just put that in your back pocket, make you go, So one of your civil rights is freedom of religion. I don't think Black people have ever had a problem being able to walk in the religion that the white man handed us. That's never been an issue. That's one of your civil rights. Another one of your civil rights is freedom of speech, okay? I don't know if you feel like your speech is being impeded upon, but I've always been able to speak freely the way I want to. Nobody has crucified me for saying the things that I say. I mean, unless you're on social media and they want to take away your freedom of speech, but that's a whole nother thing. We just got social media. That's a new thing. But you basically walk around getting to say what you want to say, don't you? Okay. And before you got to do that, right? As long as you were saying it in the Black neighborhood. You know, if you got in trouble for saying something in the white neighborhood, it wasn't because you were saying something. It was because you was in the white neighborhood. So let's be clear about that, okay? Right to a fair trial. Do y'all think that Black people had the right to a fair trial back then? More importantly, civil rights done came and they done gone, okay? Do you have the right to a fair trial right now? Do you think that Black people receive a fair trial? These are your civil rights, right? The right to bear arms. I'm in Georgia. Black people carry guns like, people chew bubble gum. So I don't think we have a right in bearing arms, right? Back then, before the civil rights movement, actually, you didn't have to go through a lot of red tape. If you had arms, you had arms. The only question was, did you have enough to combat with all of the other, like KKK members who were actually the Democratic Party? We won't go too far down this rabbit hole. I'll just throw some shit out there and you can put it in your pocket and tell me where it lands, right? You know what I'm saying? And how much you hold on to and you let resonate with you. So back then, when they came around with all their guns, the KKK, that was the Democratic Party, right? That actually went around and tried to get all these Black people and everybody else, scare them into voting. They leave that part out for them to not vote, but to come over to the side of the Democrats. Like, do y'all not know that? But anyway, they had a bunch of guns and they had crosses they were burning in your yard, right? So you can have a gun if you're a Black person, but the problem is that they didn't have many guns or they were scared to use it because they didn't outnumber the other people that will come after they use that gun, right? But the crazy part is that in slavery, Black people made everything. We didn't just pick cotton. We dealt with the crops. We made all of the inventions. We were the gunsmiths. We made the guns. We made the ammo. We sold the clothes. We cleaned the house. We raised the kids. We breastfed them even when they weren't our children. We did all of that. That is what they did. So get this. We just picked cotton out your hair. We did it all. So if Black people wanted to stand up, they didn't need civil rights. They should have just, they should have got together and got a lot of guns and they should have just, went to war, but apparently that didn't happen, as we can see. All right, so the right to assemble, civil rights. Do you think that we don't have the right to assemble? I watch people assemble all the time. Martin Luther King did it obviously so that he could protest, and everybody got beat down, and we want to pat all these Black folks on the back because you got beat down and you got whipped and you got bit up by dogs with water hoses. I am sad that you went through all of that. For what? For what? For what? It didn't afford us anything. Like if I'm getting an ass whooping, I at least want it to count. I don't know about you, but I want it to count. Right to vote. What do y'all feel about voting today? Like, we fought so hard to vote. And just recently, I feel like there was a whole bunch of immigrants who are non-citizens, and those non-citizens were in all of these voting registries, like 1 million, 500,000, 100,000, and they were all registered to vote. Like, they was coming in over the border, and there were people who were actually working with them to get them registered to vote. Most Black people today will tell you they think voting, somebody said in the chat, it's a waste of time. Somebody said people in the chat trying to get my attention. Well, if it's good attention and you got something to say, wait a minute, because if I drop the link, you had an opportunity. If you just talking shit, I don't want to give you my attention right now at this moment anyway, because we're talking about something much bigger. But I mean, most Black people, this is how we look at voting today. Okay, but these are the things that were fought for. Now, stop me when I say that civil rights fought for something that actually made a difference. And today, it does something for us, right? Somebody said it's loud. Freedom of equality. You can block that crazy bitch. She just finna go get 5 other accounts and come on back and do it again. Something is wrong with you, ma'am. Something's wrong with you. You eat bowls of meth for breakfast. I don't know what you eat for lunch, but dinner is definitely a couple of hits on a crack pipe. Please stop doing that shit and then coming over to my channel. We don't have time, okay? Something's wrong with you. You are a grown woman, and all you do is make accounts every single day. You have like 10 of them, and you just stalk people for years and years and years and years. Baby, I am a very good, I ignore people very well. I do. Right? There were some people on live complaining you got their phone number and you was harassing them. If you have my number, you can never harass me because I don't answer numbers for phones for people I don't know. If you text me and be like, hey, I don't know who you is, I delete that shit and don't answer it. I'm not even curious. I don't know. Because if you matter, you'll get through. So, baby, I don't have time to play these games with your grown ass, okay? So get the fuck on somewhere. Y'all always want attention. Go grow your channel and then see how many people you can get to follow you and watch you in your comment section. Y'all be coming over here so bad trying to get attention on some shit that you ain't built. Go and build your own shit and go talk shit on your own page, right? Try doing that. Try cutting on the camera, see how many people want to hear you talk. Get the fuck out of my comment section. I don't have time for that bitch. So for my moderators, Will, even Steven, block that bitch. And every time she make another account, block her again because she 50 and she crazy. She need to pack her shit and leave with them goddamn immigrants. Anyway, voting was the last one we were on. So this is a right that was fought for, right? I feel like the immigrants got that right more than some of us did, right? Let me ask you something. Since Black people, they say, are one of the biggest prison populations, these people have felonies, okay? You do understand that if you're a felon and you're on probation, you're on parole, or you're in prison, you are not allowed to vote. So we're going to go down this rabbit hole just a little bit, okay? Now, I'm not going to go too deep because all of these conversations can all take a turn and they can become their own conversations. So when we talk about, again, voting, does civil rights really work? Because it seems like to me, they just took the Black man, meaning man and woman, and found a way to turn them into a legal slave and then take the right for them to vote away. Now, the people who are in the prisons, even though they have committed crimes, if they're going to get out one day and they can go and fight, the fires for $3 a day, $10 a day in LA, you know how they're out there fighting fires the fuck right now as prisoners and not getting paid at all to do this, right? Definitely not a livable wage. It's what we would call slave labor. Matter of fact, it's what we actually do call slave labor. It's in the Constitution. So did civil rights help you when it came to voting, when we look at where we are with voting, because they just found a way to take that right away from a whole lot of Black people by taking the label Negro off of them because they discriminated against Negroes, so we'll call them a felon instead. Okay? Right to an education. Black people's education is a piece of shit. All of you have children or you have gone to inner city schools. I would like to know how wonderful your schools are. How educated are your children? What kind of education did you get? See, I remember coming up in Detroit, we didn't have school buses, and I'm 45 years old. So we didn't have school buses. We had to go to the school that was in our area because we had to walk to school. Nobody ever put us on a bus. You had to go to school where you lived. Okay? When we got to school back then, we didn't have all this technology, so we had textbooks. And there were never enough textbooks for all the students in the school, so it was hard for us to take those textbooks home and do homework and complete our assignments. Then we have the Democratic Party. We're going to go down this hole just a little bit, right? And other politicians, because Republicans have done some shit too, and they brought about what's called the No Child Left Behind bill, which means no matter how stupid your kid is, no matter how much we don't teach them, no matter how much they don't have textbooks or the proper learning or these free tutors that everybody else in school gets, but the inner city and the Black kids do not get them. If your child don't know how to read in second grade, we're still going to push them to the third, the fourth, the fifth, the sixth. Then they're in the 10th grade and they don't even know how to read. I promise you, tons of children graduate from Black children, graduate from the public schools in the inner cities with high school diplomas, and they ass can't read. Put that in your back pocket with the other stuff you put in there. You're not going to have enough room in your back pocket, so you might want to start to put some stuff in your front pocket before this conversation is over, okay? So I want you to look at our education now, because I'm about to show you what our life and our education was like before the civil rights. But before I do that, we have to talk about where we are right now, right? Right to employment. Black people, how we doing with employment? I mean, once again, you're competing with immigrants. You can argue if you want, but facts are facts. Do you remember the first time that Trump was in the White House and he had his first, run as president, and he deported a whole lot of immigrants? Because I remember I was in Colorado and they got to scattering like roaches. I was like, where the hell they go? It was 75 of them that lived on this block. They're all gone. It's quiet as fuck around here. All the cars gone. Where did they go? They left. Guess what happened when they left? Now, Trump never said, I'm doing this for Black people. We're dealing in facts, y'all. But when they left, guess what happened to the Black unemployment rate? Anybody want to guess? It went down. So whether you want to admit it or America wants to admit it, when there are immigrants in this country, a motherfucker will give them a job before they give you a job. That's just the way it is. Then let's go back to the new Negro, the felon, okay? Because if you have a felon, and we keep talking about how so many Black people fill the prisons because we just thugs and criminals and blah, 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 when half y'all don't even know what equates to be a felon. You know how many people can be considered a felon and have never sold an ounce of drugs? They've never hurt anybody physically. Felons are not just violent crimes, you guys. It's not just drugs. No, it's not, okay? And I'm going to tell you a little secret. Don't tell nobody. But most of the drugs in this country, the government brought them in. We didn't even do that shit. They fed it to us. You know, like when you sick and your mama crushed the medicine on the spoon and feed it to you because you just got to get it down. They fed the shit to us, but don't tell nobody, okay? It's a secret. So when we talk about Black people, because that's what we're talking about here, isn't that what the civil rights, isn't that what Martin Luther King was fighting for? So has our employment gotten any better? I guess that's the question you got to write down on your notepad of questions you need to answer when this is all said and done. Right to housing. Now, some of you are going to come in here and say some real dumb shit in my comment section, like you're going to say, well, Black folks are in Section 8 and they're in housing. That's not the right to housing. What they give the immigrants is the right to housing. Do you want to know what the right to housing is? The right to housing is when they give you loans based off of your status of being an asylum seeker, and because you are in danger or trouble or in a bad state, they give you a loan that's not even based on your credit, because that shouldn't keep you from obtaining home ownership, not Section 8. See, those houses don't belong to you. That just puts you in the system. That's a different story. See, the immigrants got the right to housing when there are programs that are paying their rent and giving them 2 years, and not in Section 8, not in housing, but in regular apartments that are fully furnished with TVs, flat screens, pots, pans, couches, comfy beds, towels, everything already in the linen closet for you, and you don't have to pay any bills or any rent for 2 years. That's the right to house you. So let's not fucking confuse the two. Okay. Section 8 and the housing authority, they tricked you when they told you that, because you noticed that they didn't take any of these immigrants and put them in housing. As far as Section 8, housing apartments, they didn't do that for any of them, did they? No. Shout out to you, Dana. Thank you so much for that. That is a beautiful super chat. Thank you so much for that. You the bomb. You the bomb back. Thank you for that. I so appreciate that. What did they do for the immigrants? They gave the immigrants money. Immigrants were getting cash every month to house themselves. When is the last time a Black person said that they would like to have the right to housing and the government said, well, we're going to give you $4,000 a month and you can just go find a place and you can pay your rent with the $4,000 that we've given you? The right to housing would be like with the immigrants, when homeless veterans and 40% damn near of the homeless population that is Black, somebody go wake Martin Luther King up the fuck out of his grave, because we need to talk to this nigga. They don't give them $4,000 to leave the shelter. How many of you are in New York? They built shelters when there wasn't none available. They put up structures. They fed these people every day. They said, we don't like the food you've given us. So they said, well, we'll give you money to buy your own food. Do you know what homeless people in America get when they go to shelters? They get a bed for the night. In the morning, you must leave and you must be back at a certain time. And if we run out of beds, we'll leave you in the cold. Nobody is giving you $4,000 to leave the shelter. They were offering the immigrants money to find housing. Yeah, you know, that civil right to find housing in order to leave the shelter. I want you, if you're homeless, to go to the shelter. When the morning time comes, tell them you're not going to leave. You know what they're going to offer you? They're going to offer you a different kind of stay in the fucking city jail, because they're going to call the police on you. That's what's going to happen to you if you go take your Black ass into a shelter and then tell them you got nowhere to go, so you're not leaving in the morning. They were bribing them with money to get them to leave. That is the right to housing. Housing says the American dream, right? That's what we should have been fighting for, MLK. The American dream says you have the right to own a home. That's the American dream, not a piece of Section 8. Where people may have forgotten, but when Black folks were on welfare not too long ago, okay, and you got housing, they would come to your house and they would check your closets. They would check your drawers. They would check your rooms and check your bedroom. And they were checking to make sure there was no man living with you, because as long as we separate your family, you can stay here. They used to come to our houses and check them like we were in fucking jail. But y'all crying about Tom Homan separating families over a situation where you had a kid here, but you illegal, you gotta go, and you don't want to take your kid with you, bitch, you a bad parent. That is not Tom Homan separating anybody, but y'all act like these are separating families. No, we watched them really separate the Black family. Maybe some of you are not old enough to remember when they would come to our house and check, and that's what they were checking for, a man. So you can stay here as long as you don't have a husband or a father for your children. The right to use public facilities. That was a big one for the civil rights, was it not? Because Black folks back then was itching. Y'all was itching. Y'all was itching to go sit at a white man's counter so he could put some snot, a booger, his toe, his hate, his anger, his racism all inside of your burger. Like, I will never understand that concept. Never. Like, I get it. They're like, well, we just want to make a point. Let me tell you, as somebody looking back where I am here now, when I look back, I don't understand how you thought that that was a come up. Oh, I'm going to make this white man serve me. What? Why would you want somebody to make you food that hates you? Why? That is so stupid. I don't know about y'all, but when I go through the drive-through, which is not often these days, because I don't do fast food, but I got kids and I got friends. But all my life, whenever we go through drive-throughs, they can hear what you're saying on the other end, even if they're not talking to you. And if I am ever in the car with somebody that start talking crazy, I don't place an order. And I don't care what color. They could be black working in the back of that restaurant. I don't place an order. When I go to a restaurant and they messed up my order or forgot something, I always call them over and say, "Excuse me, I do not mean to be a problem. I hate that I even have to do this, but I asked for my steak to be well done. And it's like blood dripping on the plate. I'm not trying to be a problem, but if he could cook it more, please." I always talk nice because you making my food. My brother used to work in a restaurant. And it didn't take my brother to tell me this for me to know this. But my brother used to work at Fridays. He was the head cook for a long time. There were certain groups of people that they did not like. Keep this in mind when you go out to eat, y'all. Okay. Like the police. And they had specials. They would say, "Oh, police special." Everybody in the back would spit on the food and then he would make it up nice and neat to where you never knew it. And those cops would scarf down that food and be eating 10 people's spit from the fucking kitchen. Like, do I have to tell y'all that for y'all to realize this? So what do you think that they was doing? I'm sure you at least got a little Suge Avery P in your shit every now and then. Why would you fight to go into white people's places? Why? Why? They hated you with a vengeance. They didn't even see you as human. Why would you want to be around them? Much less make them serve you. See, that was that arrogance of, we have been on a plantation, we have come from slavery, we have been mistreated. They made us serve them, so I want to make them serve me. Let me tell you, there's just some things in my blood that I don't want to do that they did. They used to make you, if you were a black woman that had babies and you had milk in your breast, they would make you breastfeed their baby if they had a baby. And if you didn't have enough milk to breastfeed your baby, a lot of babies back then died from malnourishment because of this. I could never have a child that I carried in my womb that belongs to me and give that baby to any other woman and let that baby breastfeed from another woman, much less a woman that I thought wasn't even human. I thought so little of that I hated her and she was my slave. Much less. Who does that? There are a lot of things that just because they did it don't mean you got to fight to do it. Stop trying to be like them. And I'll throw this for you to put in your pocket because I don't know if it's true or not, but I've been doing activist work in the community for a very long time. And from what I know and from what I've seen, I kind of think it might be true. So MLK Jr. should have stopped trying to be so much like the white men, so much that he was always cheating on Coretta, even with the white women. But we're going to act like we didn't say that. We'll just put that in our back pocket with everything else. Now, some people, I've heard them have that argument. Just so he cheat, that mean he ain't a good leader. No, what makes you not a good leader, nigga, is that you can't be standing up saying that you're fighting against white supremacy and the very enemy that you call our enemy, you're in the bed with them. That's a whole nother scenario, okay? But that seems to go over some of y'all head because y'all be wanting to debate that. And some of y'all gonna say, well, it was just lies from the government. Okay, we'll see. We're gonna talk about MK Ultra, and we'll be talking about that on MX Network, and we will be doing that on Friday, you guys. That show will only be on MX Network because of the things we're going to talk about and play. And what you will find is there was a lot that was done to MLK and himself because he was owned by them boys. He really was. Okay. Them was his homies. Like, if you have ever seen a person right now in this day and time where they stay there for the Black community and they're an activist, but every time you see them, they are always hanging out with like all of the white people and the brown folks and the immigrants, and they're fighting for everybody. And they got this thing of, oh, we're all the same. We should love everybody. We should include everybody. We still have those MLK kind of people today. See, we accept this because they gave him to us as a leader. He could never lead me. If he was alive today, doing the shit that he was doing back then, I would call the nigga a sellout, and he would probably be one of the people that would have private meetings. See, because when Michi come to meetings and they want to invite all the white people, let me tell you why the white people be at the activist meetings. Do you want to know why they're there? Because they write the checks. That's in the room. They write the checks. Now, Malcolm X told us that he was paid for by them. He said it on TV a million times, and people want to say, well, they made up. Okay, mean that what Malcolm X said was a lie. He was paid by the Democrats. He was paid by the white people. And once they start paying you, they own you. Let me tell you a little story that happened this day and age. So I was supposed to go speak to a room full of Black people. 300 Black people were there. I was going to go speak to them about the school to prison pipeline, okay? I had created this nice old presentation. I'm in Colorado. I'm dealing with one of the Black activists in the community. I did a video that went viral and got 3 million views. I was in World Star Hip Hop, and the premise of the video was about the Bill Cosby case. One thing I expressed in that video was that I did not care if he was guilty or not, because I didn't care about what Black men did to white women. Because when they start caring about how we've been raped, how we've been mistreated by this country, and how this country and white men and white people have done so much to us, then you could come talk to me about that. I don't give no damn about that. I talked about how there were Black victims that say he did stuff, but they pranced the white women into the courtroom. Those are the ones that got the money. They got the settlement. You didn't get no justice for the Black women, so I don't give a damn. Do you know that the next day this nigga called me and he says to me, Michi, you know you can't come to the event anymore. I said, why not? What did I do? He said, well, you know, you too big now. You know, you on a whole nother level, girl. You know, you ain't got time for this small thing. I said, really? This is what we're doing? I said, why don't you just tell the truth? The people who fund you had a problem with what I said. They seen it because it went viral, and y'all don't like me because I'm always checking them. So because I said something to hurt white people's feelings, these white people that paid him dictated to him. Somebody said, Michi, we miss you in Colorado. It hasn't been the same. And y'all know who I'm talking about. He's still out there probably placating and kissing ass. Hasira Ashamu, baby. And he told me that I couldn't come back to do the event. Now, I went, but I had to sit in the audience. I want y'all to think about that. There were no white people in the room. This was a room full of Black people. So the white people paid the check. And that check allowed them to tell him that I wasn't allowed to come in a room and speak to my own people about something they definitely need to know. I used to do this presentation about the school to prison pipeline. My son got caught up into it, and I studied it in college when I was taking, I was doing my final paper for one of my psychology classes. And so I was going to go in there and I would do a presentation of what does it look like, sound like, and feel like, so they can recognize it when it's happening to their children and when it's taking place in their schools. That was a very important conversation to have, but I couldn't have it because the white people wrote the check. Well, I want you to know, where do you think Martin Luther King got all of his funding from? And back then, you don't think that that was even more different than today? Back then, he was taking money from white people compared to how stuff is today. And trying to tell us we should kumbaya with all of them. I'm going to play a video for you guys. We are going to watch about 10 minutes, 8 to 10 minutes of, I'm going to try not to stop it and talk shit. I'm going to wait until it's over. But when you watch this stuff, it's hard to not jump in and say, see what I'm talking about? But I'm going to show y'all, we're going to watch about 8 minutes of how to sell to the Negro. And the reason we are going to watch this right now is because this was put out in 1954, okay? Same time the civil rights movement started. So I want you to understand that the civil rights movement was actually a movement by the powers that be to actually put Black people in a place for them to control us once again. I want you to know that when it comes to the civil rights movement, Black people were actually better off before the civil rights movement. And if you don't believe me, I'm about to show you. We owned homes, we had money, we were better educated. They're going to admit all of this based on statistics back then. So what the fuck are we fighting for to get better education when it already said we were better educated back then? We were doing fine. A lot of these things they told you that we needed to fight for, we didn't need them. We were thriving in all of these areas, okay? I am from Detroit, Michigan. My mother was 5 years old when they assassinated MLK. Okay, so this was not this long ago, y'all. Okay, my grandmother lived through all of the civil rights. And while that was going on, every Black person in my fucking family in Detroit owned their own home. They weren't begging for nobody to give them no housing. Guess what? Okay, you couldn't find work in the white people's establishment? My grandfather owned his own business. Mattresses and upholstery, and he made furniture. That business stood until about 10 years ago when he died, because he lived long into his 90s. When the riots came from the civil rights movement, my grandfather had to stand outside with his right to bear arms that he didn't need some fucking permit for like you need today, to keep people from tearing his shit up. I know for a fact Black people were doing better back then than we do now. So I want you to compare back then and the lie that they came in and told us. After we watch this, I'm going to explain to you why white people, the government, paid this man, MLK, to bring us back into their fold. Not that they were going to make any of those things better for us. They actually made them worse. They just wanted to control us again. And I'm going to show you exactly what that means and how they control us now that we came back into their graces of needing them to do everything for us. We were not destitute. We were not destroyed. We were not homeless. We were not just out there in the wilderness. I want you to remember that Black people built everything. Black people built everything. Black people built everything in slavery. Do you understand me? We did not just pick cotton. Every invention that you think a white man made, they owned the slave that made it. So that invention became theirs because they owned the slave. When Black people were free, they didn't need those people. Those people needed them because they didn't have any skills. They didn't fucking know how to do anything. Why do you think that white people were given reparations? Do you know that the first, what the fuck is it called when you got to hire somebody and they talking about getting rid of it? And I can't even think of the word, affirmative action, where you got to hire somebody based on their race? How many of you know that that was created for white people? But these niggas had no skills. How dare you come here and call Black people lazy, immigrants, or anybody else, or Black people this day that's stupid and just don't know your history? We built everything in this country, and that is a fucking fact. White people had affirmative action because they didn't have any skills. So you just need to hire me and give me a job because I'm white. You should go study your history a little bit more. And I'm not talking about the one they throw in your face in that bullshit ass inner city schools. You know, the white man's education that we traded our Black education for. So I'm going to play this, and then we're going to have this conversation a little bit more. So let me play this video for y'all to see exactly what I'm talking about. This was published the same year the civil rights started. And I'm telling you, it is because of what you are about to see in this film, why they felt that the civil rights movement was necessary.
Hello, I'm Bob Trout. I've got a story here that I think is big, really big, because it's bound to have a terrific impact on business. I'm talking about a new market, a big new market, millions upon millions of new prospects with $15 billion to spend. That's right. I said 15 billion. That's a lot of money, isn't it? The surprising thing is that it's a fresh market, still full of opportunities. It grew up so fast, got so big in a hurry, that few of us realize its scope. Now, these days, nobody's likely to pass up chances to sell. And yet right here in our own front yard, there's a neglected market. There's money waiting to be spent. To get the story of this market, to be able to tell you the secret of selling the Negro, we did a lot of digging. We talked to leading businessmen, the customers, and the salesmen. We went to Washington, D.C. We set up cameras and other key points around the nation. And out of this all, there emerged a story, the story of a new market.
Hold on, y'all. It was let me bring it back up. It kept glitching, so we're gonna refresh it. Here we go. We're gonna make sure it play right because I want y'all to hear it. I don't want to see all this damn skipping. Okay, it should be better this.
15 billion. That's a lot of money, isn't it?
Hold on, we're gonna go back.
On business. I'm talking about a new market, a big new market. Millions upon millions of new prospects with $15 billion to spend. That's right, I said 15 billion. That's a lot of money, isn't it? The surprising thing is that it's a...
I said I wasn't going to stop this much, but I want to point out something. So in 1954, before the Civil Rights Movement, Black people were spending $15 billion because that's what he's talking about when he says a market of 15 billion. So in 1954, poor Black people needed these white people help, but collectively, we spent $15 billion a year. Okay.
A fresh market, still full of opportunities. It grew up so fast, got so big in a hurry, that few of us realize its scope. Now, these days, nobody's likely to pass up chances to sell. And yet right here in our own front yard, there's a neglected market. There's money waiting to be spent. To get the story of this market, to be able to tell you the secret of selling the Negro, we did a lot of digging. We talked to leading businessmen, the customers, and the salesmen. We went to Washington, D.C. We set up cameras and other key points around the nation. And out of this all, there emerged a story, the story of a new market. Yes, this is the market we're talking about, the new Negro family. Their name is Wells or Wilson, Smith or Brown or Alexander or Breen. They live in Chicago, in Atlanta or New York, in Detroit, St. Louis, Los Angeles, any one of 1,000 cities and towns. All over the country, families such as this are enjoying new prosperity. They have new interests, new standards of living, a buying power they've never enjoyed before. They're good prospects for practically all types of goods and services. All too often, though, they're overlooked prospects. Why? Because of some good, valid reason? No. They're overlooked because of mistaken ideas, because of out-of-date ideas about how the Negro lives and how he buys. The truth of the matter is that the Negro lives pretty much the same as other folks. He buys pretty much the same way, too. But just the same, a lot of old doubts and opinions keep cropping up over and over again.
I don't like to do business with Negroes. They're drifters. You can't keep track of them.
Yes, although a lot of people think that way, the truth is that 1 out of every 3 Negro families living in cities today owns its own home. That figure comes directly from the United States Bureau of Census.
Maybe so, but Negroes are poor credit risks.
Not more of a credit risk than any other group. Actually, the Negro homebuyer meets his payments faithfully, often more faithfully than other race groups in the same economic level. That's the information we got from people who ought to know, the National Association of Real Estate Boards.
Well, maybe, but I've always heard that Negroes buy shoddy, poor quality merchandise.
No, it's just the other way around. According to leading researchers, in proportion to population and income, Negroes buy more quality products than any other comparable United States group. You see, there are a lot of confused notions about the Negro customer. But when you dig right down and find out about them, they just don't hold water. Negroes own homes. They meet their payments faithfully. They buy good brands of merchandise. So why let a lot of old-fashioned ideas hurt profits? Take a look at the real facts. Here in Washington, D.C., the nation's capital, some amazing facts and figures about this new market have been uncovered. For a first-hand report, we would like to take you directly to the United States Department of Commerce to hear this story from the Secretary of Commerce himself. Here is the Honorable Sinclair Weeks, the Secretary of Commerce of the United States.
In the Department of Commerce, we are constantly alert to trends that mean a healthier national economy, better business for the nation as a whole. Recently, we have been interested in a rising young market, one that represents a huge potential for goods and services. I'm referring to the new Negro market. The tremendous buying power of this group is backed, of course, by an increased earning power. The average Negro family's income is at a record high. In fact, since 1939, it has increased more than the average income of all other Americans. Just take a look at a few figures. An official Department of Commerce report shows that at least 1/3 of the Negroes living in cities earn from $2,000 to $5,000 a year. Today, the average Negro wage earner brings home a paycheck 4 times larger than the one he collected in 1939. As a whole, the Negro market has a total income of about $15 billion every year. And after taxes, Negro families still have many billions of dollars to spend. Here is a buying power that cannot help but have a tremendous effect on our national economy and on business prosperity in general. When these dollars are spent for a wide range of goods, services, and employment, business everywhere is bound to feel the impact.
This new buying power has resulted in a class Negro market, a profitable, above-average income group of consumers. For example, the nation's largest newspaper and magazine research organization, Daniel Starch and Staff, reports these significant figures. More than 51% of the readers of Ebony magazine have a record player in their homes. Almost 64% own a television set, and almost 78% enjoy the convenience of an electric refrigerator. It is also a fact, and this is from the magazine The Food Field Reporter, that Negroes spend almost $3 billion a year for food alone. Per capita, they buy more cosmetics, drugs, and toiletries than anyone else in the country. And their children are better educated, too, because since 1930, enrollment in Negro colleges is up 2,500%. But really, to recognize the importance of this class Negro market, we must realize that something has been happening economically.
Sorry, I was muted, y'all. We're going to stop it there, I said, because it made my point. If you want to watch the rest of it, you can watch it on YouTube, you guys, or you can watch it over on MX Network. We do have it in our throwback section. The rest of the documentary that you're going to see, the rest of it is the psychology of how it is that you sell to the Negro, right? So they talk about the psychology of it. They let you know, how it is you should deal with them, how you should talk to them, how it is that they go about buying their things of that nature, right? And so if you go and you watch it, it's very interesting. You will find that just like today, that we buy things for all of the wrong reasons once again, okay? So if you want to go over there and you want to look at it and watch the rest of it, just put in, how to sell to the Negro. Or if you're on MX Network, like I said, that you can watch the whole thing. The rest of it is the psychological part, right? How do they get you to buy stuff? Now, they still use these tactics today to sell you stuff. So it's important that you go and you watch it. But how many of you heard the last thing that I stopped it on? Did it not say that Black people's children were more educated? Didn't it say that? Now, I know I wasn't the only one that heard that. So you mean to tell me, and when they said that all of these Negro homes, Black people had record players, refrigerators, and televisions, understand that back in this time, everybody didn't have televisions. Everybody did not have all of these things. Okay, so that's why it was a big deal for them to say that they had it. Did you hear them talk about the fact that they had better education and how many more of their kids was enrolling, wait a minute, into their schools? Did you hear that? Not white people's schools. So that means Black people had schools. Black people had their own colleges. This is what they said. These were the statistics. These are real facts. This was a real documentary. This is not a make-believe show. That man that was speaking was really what the fuck he was from Washington, D.C. So did you not hear them say all of that? How many owned homes? So now let's go back to MLK. My question would be to you, if you lived back in this time, yes, you live back in this time, and this is how Black people are dealing, this is how Black people are living, and they're doing all of these things on their own. Matter of fact, let's go back 1 second. How many of you heard when they said that Black people were actually, for people who made the same amount of money as them, meaning that there were plenty of white folks that were making the same amount of money, so they're making the same amount of money as white folks back then, that the same people in their money bracket, that they paid their bills on time more than anybody else. Did y'all hear that too, or did that go past you? Put that shit in your motherfucking back pocket. So I want you to look at that time. If you lived back then, would you be looking at MLK kind of sideways if he came to you and said that we need to start a movement, man? Because we need to have rights for education. Why? Our kids are more educated than even the white people's kids right now. Did y'all hear that? Why would we fight for a right to education when we didn't have a problem with education? Why would we be fighting for a right to housing when Black people didn't seem to have a problem with housing? Now let's go to today. You see where we are today? This is all a product of us integrating with them. One of the most disgusting scenes I have ever seen as a mother is to watch Ruby Bridges go to school and force her to walk into a school in a classroom and stay there all day with a bunch of fucking white people calling her names all day, and they didn't like her. It was grown-ups yelling at this little girl with picket signs telling her, don't bring your ass in here, calling her all kind of names. You tell me what kind of parent sends their kid to do that? Why would you give your children back to the educator that said it was important that you did not read? Now follow me, because we finna go down a rabbit hole with this one, and we're gonna go down the whole rabbit hole with these things. So now MLK done come in. He done fought for these dumbass civil rights. Like we really need them to help us and integrate with them. If you watch the video and you understand, they wanted us to be back in their grasp because they realized how we were succeeding without them, how Black folks were doing better, how we were creating our own. And they wanted a piece of that. So they wanted to be able to find a way to capitalize and keep us enslaved always. So you gave your children back to the oppressor. And where's your children's education now? Do you know that in 2025, there are more children graduating that are Black from high school and they cannot read? Go back to the fucking plantation with me. Let's go back down this motherfucking rabbit hole. So when you was on a plantation, you wasn't allowed to read. You gave your children back to the fucking oppressor. And are you surprised that our children can't read? You don't think that was by design? Before the civil rights movement, there were no Black kids that could not read. None. There was no Black kids that were going to school and graduating and couldn't read. None. Matter of fact, they said the Ebony magazine had more readers and Black people read that more than anything. So they were sitting down even though they had TVs and they was reading. There weren't any Black kids graduating from Black schools back then and they couldn't read. So base that with today. How many Black kids graduate from inner city public schools that are run by your oppressor? And if you don't send your kids to these schools, because remember, you integrated, so you didn't receive no rights. Your ass gave up your rights. Martin Luther King fucking tricked us into giving up our rights. Because now, if you do not send your child to the oppressor's school, guess what happens? Oh, y'all wanted to vote for Kamala, right? Maybe Kamala can tell you what happens. Well, if you don't send your kids to school, they call that truancy, and then they will send the police to your house or child protective services. So if you don't send your children to us, there's a price to pay. And then when we do send our children to you, because you mandate it as though it's a law, you don't fucking teach them anything. You send them to prison based on the school to prison pipeline. Do you know that prisons are built based on the fucking 4th grade reading level of children in the inner city public schools? Do you know that that's what they base whether they're building more prisons on? You know why? Because if your child cannot read, that is actually a determining factor in them ending up in prison. Now, when we talk about statistics, there are correlations. There are things that take place that have other effects. And based on this study, I tell y'all this shit all the time. You want to understand Black power, how we're played, and how you can get free. Don't go read no goddamn books about no other movements. Has any other movement brought us to where we need to be? Go read some books about psychology. Go understand statistics. Go understand mind control. Go understand manipulation. Go understand dark psychology and how we are manipulated. Learn all of that shit. And then you will see exactly what's being done to us. So they keep your kids from reading. They have the school to prison pipeline, which is a very real thing. I did not make that shit up. It is not my word. It's not my saying. I didn't come up with that, okay? So they put your kids in and they shuffle them off to prison, because if they keep your kid from reading, your child has a greater chance of being a prisoner more than anything else. You gave your kids back to the oppressor during the civil rights movement. This is what Martin Luther King gave you. This is what he walked you in. You know that burning house that he said, I fear I've integrated my people to burn. Nigga, you knew it was a burning house before you did it. You woke up one day after laying with one of them white women and then you got a conscience, I guess. And the reason they killed Martin Luther King was not because he was doing so much for Black people and civil rights. No, because they bought him. They owned him. That was their boy. And when the boy started speaking out against them, when they boy started talking about reparations, when they boy started talking wrong and started talking about, I put my people, I integrated them into a burner house. This ain't what we talked about, boy. This ain't what we paid you to do. This ain't what your job was. You're not doing the job right, and you have the attention of too many people. So now you want to decide to speak the truth. We're going to have to get rid of him. And they owned him. That's why they got rid of him. Because he stepped out of line. The whole time he was playing us, and he knew he was fucking playing us. And they killed him because he decided to stop playing the game. Do not sit this sorry ass motherfucking man who ain't never led us into shit that was good for us and tell me he lost his life for fighting for our rights. No, the fuck he didn't. They paid that man to bring black people back underneath their control. We still have the plantation. It's called the prison. That's the new plantation. Prison industrial complex. Billions and billions of dollars are made every single year of free labor within the prisons. Car parts, furniture, Walmart, Starbucks, you name it, they all make it in the prison. They even make the baton sticks they beat their asses with. They make the shields, they make the vests, they make all of the stuff that the police officers wear. They make it in the prison and they don't get paid nothing. That is slave labor. You do know that when the plantation was over, guess what they did with all the plantations? They turned them into prisons. There are literally brothers in the South that are imprisoned in a prison that is actually a plantation, and they still out there doing free labor and picking cotton. Y'all don't think they do that today? Okay. You'd be wrong. And they're doing it on the same land that actual slaves that may have been their ancestors picked it. The prison is the new plantation, and the word felon is the new Negro. You want to talk about segregation? We're not segregated. So they pulled us in so that they could segregate us. So you don't think we should have just stayed segregated on our own? You don't think we're segregated? Watch this. How many of you have ever been in a neighborhood that you didn't look like you could afford, and you had that old police officer saying, "Oh, what you doing in this neighborhood, boy? You're not supposed to be around here." You do know that when black people got freed from the plantation, they turned them into prisons immediately. Go do some study. And they made loitering against the law. And then they would find reasons. And when they found black people in places they wasn't supposed to be, or they decided to say you was committing a crime, they would take your ass back to the plantation and they would say you were a prisoner, and then they would make you do the slave labor they just claimed they fucking freed you from. We're not segregated? There is a woman in Connecticut. Maybe she's out now. They gave her 5 years because when you are on the plantation, Negro, your children go to school on the plantation. Do you hear me, boy? Your child don't get to wander off this plantation. What's wrong with you? So when you live in the inner city, where do your kids go to school? How many of you are not allowed to send your kid to a school in your area that's outside of your area? There's a woman that was in Connecticut, and she used her friend's address so she could send her child to a better school in a better district. They found out she lied on the application about where her child's address was, and they fucking sent her to jail for 5 years. I didn't make this story up. You should go look it up. And she's not the only one. So are you not segregated? Are you not told where your kids can and can't go based on where you live? And you do know ghettos are created. Like, we're not going to go down that rabbit hole tonight, but your politicians create your ghettos that you live in. So they create that ghetto-ass environment for you. They ply you up with liquor and drugs by pumping them into your community. They put a liquor store on every corner. They give you fake-ass Jesus because it's just as many liquor stores as it is churches, but ain't a motherfucking thing changed. What's wrong with your God? Because the one you serve don't seem to be shit. Same thing on the plantation. They give you some fake ass church. They ply you up with liquor. Niggas had to fight to the death. You don't remember that? Or maybe you didn't do your studying. Go watch Django. It's one of the realest depictions you will ever see of some damn slavery. They created those ghettos for you to be in. They said, well, black folks are in the inner cities the most. Did you not just hear the documentary that we watched? Black people are coming into the inner cities more than ever. So they decided to take the inner cities. What cities did he name? Back in 1954, he named Detroit. He named Chicago, New York, Atlanta. Did he not name all of these places? They know you in the inner cities, so then they turned your inner cities into ghettos. So they could control everything that you do. You want to talk about the right to vote? I know a black woman that voted while she was a felon. She got out of jail. She thought that she could vote because she was no longer in jail, but she was on probation for a parole at the time. She voted for Obama and they sent her ass to jail. Do you hear me? They sent her ass to jail. So where the hell is your civil rights to vote? Because I know people going to jail if you under the new Negro label, which is felony. There was never a dream. It was all a lie. And Martin Luther King was paid to make Black folks come back under the thumb of the oppressor. And now we are here and we can't get from underneath it. Look at our families today. How many Black people own homes? They say it's about the same. Now we've come all these years and it's even more Black people populating the United States. So it says 1 in every 3 Black person owns a home still today from 1954. Why hasn't that grown? Our kids are less educated. We have less people owning homes because that should grow with the times. As we're growing, that should grow. That has stayed exactly the same. Our children are less educated. But we continue to spend money because instead of 15 billion, we out here spending 2 trillion. But where are the Black families? They damn sure not as prevalent as they were before the civil rights movement. Right? Because they helped to tear down your families. Because once they had you all in one area, they gave you the illusion of freedom. They pumped crack into your community. We don't have no crack trees. I mean, last time I checked, there's a lot of trees in Georgia. I ain't never seen one drop no crack or no coke to make none with. And while they drugged out all of the parents, all of the adults, the children were left to raise themselves. That's some psychology shit to destroy the family. And before they did that, guess what? They made sure that the men couldn't take care of their households because now you're depending on them. So now they control all of this shit. I told you they wouldn't even help the women if it was a man in the house. Now, today you're on welfare, and some of you might not believe that because if you get food stamps and there's a man in the house, you could just put him on it and they'll give y'all food stamps and housing based on y'all both income. Well, back then, you could not have a man in the house, period. Doesn't matter if he made money or he didn't. And in order to survive, a lot of women had to do that because of the crack era and all of the men that they destroyed. And now they got all of y'all walking around in dresses. And I won't say all of y'all, shout out to the real brothers. But I mean, there's a lot of brothers in skirts these days. It really is. And this is what we went from being families, a father, a mother, children, owning homes, progressing and thriving to no fathers in the home, motherfucking parents drugged out. Your mama, your daddy is out here being crackheads. Kids raising their damn selves. You know, they was offended because Sexy Red posted a picture, I guess. I seen it just before I started this live. And she's in the club and she's standing there with Martin Luther King. And King's daughter spoke out and said it was disrespectful and that she shouldn't have ever done that because he fought for civil rights and for freedom and all of these things. And I'm thinking, boy, I feel like it's a good picture because Sexy Red is the epitome of whoredom. She's a whore, okay? And that's exactly what MLK was for the white man. Now I understand it's your daddy. I'm sure she's not watching, but if you are, I mean all disrespect. I'm going to tell you something too. Let me say this. If anybody is offended because this man has passed away, his legacy fucked over all Black people in this country. Okay. And I am a firm believer that whether you are Martin Luther King or whether you are Jacob Brown, nigga, if you was a piece of shit when you were alive, just because you dead don't mean you a good person now. How many of y'all go to a funeral and because somebody is dead, all of a sudden you want to try and say some nice shit about them? If you a piece of shit, don't invite me to somebody's funeral and ask me to say shit about them if they was a piece of shit. If you're a piece of shit when you're alive, you're just a dead piece of shit. We need to stop that bullshit. It would be different if this was just your daddy, girl. This man is the very reason why Black people are where they are today. We were better off before they found your daddy, paid that punk ass nigga, and had him sell us out. He is the biggest sellout in Black history and caused more damage than any other fucking so-called leader we have ever had. And that's however you want to take it. You want to look at the shit we in now? You can thank Martin Luther King for that every January 20th. Look around at the Black community. Look at all of the ways we're failing. Look at all the families that are broken. Look at all the people that are in the court system that don't get a fair trial. As I end this live, I'm going to read you your fucking civil rights again. You know, all the shit he claimed he fought for us that we already had on our own. And when we look now, those things have actually been taken away from us, and we find them being given to these fucking immigrants more than they ever give them to us. Your freedom of religion. You've never had that taken away from you. You can worship that white Jesus they gave you all you want because they gave him to you. Okay? Let me tell you something. I don't practice that anymore. I'm no longer a Christian. But when I walk into spiritual stores with supplies, there are more white folks in there and other races than there are ever Black people. They traded you that fake ass God. They don't even worship him. Trust me when I tell you. Freedom of speech. Y'all say whatever y'all want to say. And now that TikTok back, y'all need to keep some of that shit to yourself. Okay? Let's just leave the freedom of speech part there. Some of y'all need to shut the fuck up. Okay? You shouldn't be talking. Right to a fair trial. I don't know. I don't think we always get a fair trial. I don't know. You tell me you think Black folks be getting fair trials when they go to court. We just watched Brother DeMonterio. He's the victim. He got shot at by those white men for nothing. In his FedEx suit, trying to deliver a package. They chased him down the road. They dismissed his case and said they can't bring it back up. He didn't get a fair trial, and he's the victim. So I don't know how that really works for Black people. I do know that there are a bunch of people right now suing, trying to give a fair trial to these immigrants so that Trump doesn't take away their birthright citizenship. I know that they're fighting for them to get a fair trial, and these fuckers ain't even citizens. Right to bear arms. My grandfather had a gun back in the day when the civil rights broke out, and he didn't need a permit for it. He didn't need anybody to tell him he could have it. It was just his constitutional right. I don't think we've ever had a problem with bearing arms. I think niggas is scared to bear arms. That's just the problem. So we didn't need him to fight for that. Right to assembly. Niggas march and protest more than anybody else. I wish you would stop marching and protesting and do something else. It don't work. I'm just telling you. After years of doing it, the shit don't work. Do something the fuck else, okay? Nobody's ever stopped you from assembling. Martin Luther King had y'all asses out there getting whipped, beat, bit by dogs, and water hosed down. So I don't think y'all really have a problem with fucking assembling. That's never been a problem, all right? Right to vote. If you're a felon, you can forget about that shit. I already told you that a woman went to prison for doing that, trying to vote for Obama's Black ass, who didn't do shit for us anyway. He was probably one of the worst presidents because he ushered in all of this LGBTQ perversion. But put that in your back pocket. We're not going to go down that rabbit hole tonight. Right to an education. We're just going to laugh at that one and move on to the next one, right? Right to employment. Black people were employed and doing well. Makes me think of Tulsa, Oklahoma. Right? Black Wall Street, all the Black businesses that Black people owned, and then they destroyed them. I don't think that we had a problem working, paying our own people, and building our own business and establishments until y'all asses came in and put us back under the oppressor's thumb. Right to housing? I'ma just say I never had nobody offer me no home loan to get a home, and I don't ever have to pay it back, and it's not never based on my credit. I only got to pay it back if I sell the house, but that's what they were offering to immigrants. If you don't know, you should go do some research. I've never had them offer me $4,000 a month to pay my rent just because I didn't have nowhere to live. I don't know, but they'll offer you Section 8 or housing developments. We went over that in the beginning, so if you in here, go watch the beginning of this video when it's over, right? That's not a right to housing. We already talked about that. The immigrants got that. Right? And the right to use public facilities. I mean, was that something we really needed to fight for? Again, these niggas got beat down, bit up by dogs and water hoses so you can have a white man that hates you make you a cheeseburger. If that ain't some bullshit. That's what that was about. Right to use public facilities. Is there any place that you as a Black person want to go back then that you couldn't go? Yeah, you couldn't go into the white people's places. But then I would ask you, if you go back to 1954, why the fuck would you want to? You did all of this to get away from the white man, get off of his plantation, get away from his white ass, and then you let some dumbass nigga make you fight to be around him again? I was on the plantation and we got free. The last fucking place I would want to be is around them crackers. What's wrong with y'all? So I don't know. You tell me, what did he fight for? What do we have? Are we better off or are we worse off? So if you ask me, Martin Luther King is not a leader. Malcolm X, Khalid Muhammad, they would never give those to us as leaders because they were radical. They spoke truth. They spoke up. You want to hear some real truth? Why MLK was trying to tell your ass to kiss the white man ass and let's all have a dream. I want my kids to sit next to white boys and white girls, and one day we gonna all rise up. If you want to hear some real truth, while he was preaching that shit, go watch Malcolm X's speech, bullet to the ballot, a ballot to the bullet. Go watch that. Go watch that. Go watch what he was saying while Martin Luther King was saying the bullshit he was saying. Then you'll find out why they have never told you that Malcolm X was our leader. This is why he don't have a day that he's honored. But shout out to Zion Institute, because my child goes there and we honor Malcolm X. They're actually off on Malcolm X's birthday. It is a holiday where my children go to school because they go to a Black STEM school. All right, so shout out to Ziax. With that said, y'all, I'm going to get the hell out of here. Like this video, share this video, subscribe if you have not. If you are watching this later in the replay and you are tired of watching these commercials, you can go to the description box, and for 24 hours, you can watch this live on MX Network with your free subscription. There's plenty of other stuff you can watch. After that, you can watch all of this stuff and more with a paid subscription. Shout out to everybody that gave tonight. Shout out to the sister that gave that really beautiful donation in the chat. Shout out to Walter and everybody over here on MX Network, you guys. I will see you guys on Thursday. We are going to be talking about MK Ultra on Friday. That will be on MX Network only, you guys. You got to come over there. You can do it with your free subscription and watch it while we're live. We will not have that conversation here, but we're going to talk about MK Ultra so that you can understand even some of the stuff that was going on with MLK, what they were doing to him, but what that's all about. Y'all seem to think that the government don't play these games. I'm going to actually show you, you know, the fog that was here, and we're like, oh, and what is it? What could it be? And I said it was smart dust, and people told me I was a conspiracy theorist. I'm actually going to show you where they actually used fog to poison San Francisco. It's a fact. They already did it. So it's not a matter of would they do it. They already fucking did it. And I'm going to show you if you don't believe it. But we will not have that conversation over here. That will be on Friday on MX Network. I will see you guys on Thursday. Tomorrow I have class with my boot camp. And I have a meeting with my tribe. But after that, you guys, on Thursday, we are actually going to finally have the conversation that keeps getting put off because there's so much other stuff that is going on. We're going to talk about the rabbit hole and the matrix of holidays. We're going to talk about the meaning behind all of them, what you spend on them, and how the fuck you can get free from them. I don't celebrate any holidays, and there's a great freedom in that. But we're going to talk about that on Thursday. All right. So until then, y'all have a good night, you guys. Stay safe and stop celebrating fucking January 20th. That shit is not a fucking celebration. That nigga was a sellout. Y'all have a good night.